Hey, good morning, TJ. A quick demo video for you for your Korbanth Darksaber. This is a really cool piece. There were a few issues that I had on the inside of the handle. It seems to be pretty consistent with the last one that I did as well. So I don't know if you have maybe like the run 2 of this saber, but I was able to get through all that. I'll go over it in detail with you. I've got your blade here as well. Your blade did come pre-wired, but there were some issues with the wiring. So I took this apart. I fixed the wiring, put it back together. It's all good to go now. It's installed the Proffie. It's a one-button setup, so your one switch is right here. You've got the pins that come with this saber. They are specific for the blade, right? So they match up with this PCB that's on the blade, and it's very unique to this particular saber. How to get to your chassis is you want to come over here and unscrew this guy right here. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that real quick. Pretty easy to do. It comes right out. Just make sure you don't lose it because it is kind of a two-part piece. There's that big nut and then there's a screw that's inside of it. So make sure you don't lose those two pieces. But when you unscrew that, you can pull your pommel right out and then you will see a piece of your chassis right here. Just take your thumb, put it in there, and pull your chassis right out. I did put this little piece right here on the chassis so it's easy for your thumb to come over here and grab it and pull it out, just something to latch onto. And then here is your chassis, right? So you've got your Proffie board right here. I am going to put some E6000 on this board to hold it in place. It's pretty firm right now. I just don't want anything happening to it while you're swinging this around. So before I send this, I'll put some E6000 on there, but you can pop the board up in the future if you really need to. And then there is a kill switch right here. You've got a removable battery that we talked about. And you have a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost speaker, and it's cocked off to the side like that, if you can see that, so that it can reach the pommel, which is where the sound venting is at. Now, the issue that I ran into with your saber, and it was the same with the other one, was the ID of this handle was not consistent. I don't know if some anodizing got in there, or just kind of a rough machine finish, or just the extruding process for this handle. I'm not exactly sure how it was made. I imagine that this is just extruded aluminum. It was very uneven in there. So I had to sand the chassis quite a bit. I did hand file the inside of this handle quite a bit. But one thing that I found helped on this saber that I hadn't tried on others before, and it actually helped quite a bit. Actually, after I filed it, I put a big piece of steel wool in there and I worked it back and forth with my file, probably for about 10 minutes. Took that out and put a piece of green Brillo pad in there and also worked that in back and forth for another 10 minutes or so. So now the inside of this handle is super smooth. It started out to where I could fit the chassis in about this far and it gets stuck, but now I can put it all the way in. And I can pull it out and no problem. And it's the same with the battery, which I'll show you that here in a second. This saber comes with an additional 4 screws. It's not the 4 screws that are in here. You got 2 here and 2 here. There are 4 longer ones that are in your box, and I'm going to leave those in there. I'm not going to do the demo with them, but they are for blade retention, right? You've got these 2 holes in your blade right here, and you've got another 2 right here. This blade fits in this saber pretty tight, so I'm not going to use it for the sake of this demo, but you will want to swap those out for blade retention when you bring this to Celebration. Let's throw a battery in the saber. I got all the sound fonts on there that you sent me. It looked like a complete Korbanth package. I took the config file from Korbanth, changed it up a little bit. Although it is for a double crystal chamber, with sub blades, I didn't change that on every font. This is just running a single blade. I left it as a 3-blade config, but that doesn't matter. It's just there's just 2 other blades that aren't showing up, right? So everything works right. I put a copy of the config file that I kind of mess with. I put a copy on the SD card. So if you ever want to see what I did, just open up the SD card and you'll find it. Right? Battery fits in here pretty snug, just like that. Now, if we turn it on from here, we come over here with a kill switch, and it cuts everything off just like it should. But again, we flip it on, everything's working good. So now when you put this in, actually one thing about the battery, I will say 2 things. One, take your sticker off. I won't be setting this one with a battery. You and I spoke about it, but take your sticker off your battery. And then also there is a metal strip running from one side of the battery to the other. I kind of put that right here in the middle. Okay. Every little bit of room in the saber counts. So that's what I do, and I get the best luck on that particular orientation. But when you put this in, obviously make sure your switch is facing up with your plunger here. Push it all the way in. Push it all the way in as far as it will go. And then the pommel will do the rest of the work if you hadn't pushed it in all the way. So you just put your pommel on, and then we'll lock that nut back in that we took off at the very beginning. Once you tighten that down, everything is pretty locked up. So you could, hit your switch. Very loud. Tap for blaster bolt deflex, right? We'll just hold it to turn it off. And then we'll take your blade and we'll put your blade in. So the blade only goes in one way. If you try to put it in this way, it won't fit properly. So make sure you put it in the right way. The actual, what would be the sharp end of the blade is facing down away from the switch. But you can see how those 2 angled pieces line up, the angled piece on the blade and on the actual emitter. All right, so we'll put that in. Like I said, this is a pretty tight fit. Once I put that in, you can see you have a little bit of something going on when the saber's off. That was part of your config. And everything's working properly. So we can turn it on. Tap for blaster bolts. You hold it down and hit the saber, you get blade lock up. You kind of see it. I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but it's about right here. And it will stay like that until you let go of it. Just like that. Hold it to turn it off. Now you were missing a tracks folder in what you sent me. So I made a tracks folder. I went through all your sound fonts, pulled out all the tracks and put them in that folder. And to get them to play, you just double tap on the button. Just like that. And then double tap again to turn it off. The saber sounds really good. And then to change sound fonts, it's a long press on the button. I'm not going to swing it around super aggressive because I don't have the blade retentions in, but you kind of get the point that everything's working. I'm trying to hit my ceiling. Right.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
Blade lock up. Shine through the windows.
Ignition.
Got ignition here. We'll do another one.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must.
Obi-Wan. So yeah, everything's working exactly like it should, man. Very solid. Like that. Let's go ahead and we'll take the blade out of this guy. I don't know how many sound fonts you had. It looked, I mean, if I had to guess off the top of my head, it looked like you had about 30 of them. It's a lot, right? We'll pull the blade out. The blade is very cool. It looks very cool. It is a little cheaply made. So you, it's not that you're going to struggle putting it in and out, but it does want to catch a little bit. It's just the way that the bottom of this piece was made, and then the holder for the emitter on the blade. But it'll go in and out, no problem. And the more you do it, it'll get worked in a little bit, so you won't have as much of an issue as you just saw me have. All right, so we'll take that bolt out again. To take your pommel out, or off rather. Pull your pommel off. It's going to be a little bit more snug with the battery in there, but you can get it, right? You can just reach in there, pull it out very gently and carefully, and that's when this little thing right here really comes into play, is when the battery is in. This really helps you kind of pull it out. But we can come over here and flip the kill switch and leave the battery in it if you like. But if you want to take the battery out, come over here from the positive side by the speaker. Probably need a tool or something, and just pop it out just like that, because I made that battery cradle pretty tight so it would hold the battery nice and snug. But I'm going to put some E6000 on this guy before I button it all back up, and I will get this out in the mail to you tomorrow. Okay? Thank you.